folks, Cowboy Rear Rogers here. Got the 3-point lift assembly all finished yesterday afternoon on this old Oliver 88 standard, and then this morning had a finish putting everything back together. As for just zip tying hoses so that they can't chafe, they got slack for when it goes up and down. Stuff like this here on this old jury rig seat assembly somebody put on there for some suspension. Here at the top of these irons where these bolts go through, I thought I was going to put a brace in the back side or across the top of it or something. It didn't work. Now this here tube is rounded for that shaft to rotate in. The top of these angle iron, I had to notch it out on the sides a little bit. This one I actually had to put an inward bevel on it because it ended up standing just a little higher than the other one. Had to measure the distance from the top of the axle housing there to get them even, so that sucker will fit level on there and not be leaning to one side. And sure enough, it was tore up so bad. A bolt was bent pretty bad, so I found a little bit longer one. On that one, I put a washer behind it. The other ones looked like they weren't long enough. Well, two others were long enough to have a flat washer. But see how there's only one thread sticking out? There has to be at least one thread sticking out, especially if it's on a commercial vehicle or something. But pretty much that's a safety thing, to make sure there's enough strength there that nut is fully engaged with that bolt and stays tight. And this little bracket here, I stuck it back on, put the longer bolt in that position. It's a nice little rack for the hitch pins for the center link here, like on this shredder. And this is actually the pull pin for the drawbar that I had to slide forwards and tie over out of the way because it's a little too long. I'm hoping to take and drill a 1/2 inch pilot hole in it and then a 3/4 inch hole in it further up here, and then cut this off with a grinder in the near future, because multiple of my attachments don't work there. Because in the past, when I had to replace the knuckles here, I maybe should have got some that had a plate attached to them and then just cut this off straight and welded them straight on. But this rounded weld provides more strength. It's inset into that piece of material, and I didn't want it sticking out quite a bit further here, because then there's less lifting strength on a somewhat light duty system here, although it's a lot heavier duty than at least for the cylinders I put on it, than a lot of your normal little utility tractors. But both sides of that is curved out a bit, this notch down, so it can sit level, and it sits right in there. Well, the head of this bolt, each side, is just right below this, so I had to use open end wrench while this was still out, with my hand stuck up from above where I got a extra larger and longer center link there laying, and be able to get those tight, and then this one tight. I contemplated on going ahead and taking all the other bolts back out and lifting it off and try to do something to make it stronger, but for one, this lift assembly right here, that pivot with the arms, none of this extra stuff, what I showed the other day, it's heavy enough that my little light tail can just get it up there, and that's it. I can just barely lift it, because you're looking at a bunch of solid iron and then cast iron there. This here is shoot, that sucker is 3/4 inch thick, if I remember correctly by the measurement So anyway, then here where this was all beat up in the past, you see I had to go ahead and take the grinder, smooth it out. So my different lengths, I don't even remember what kind of work I was doing that beat it up so bad, because it was even beat outside and inside. But it was something. This poor old tractor gets worked 10 times harder than it was originally meant to be, especially using this 3-point lift. I didn't even use this shredder yet. I had to get it hooked up, grease the PTO shaft. I even grease the shaft on the power takeoff so it'll come back off easier again, and a little penetrating oil on the push release there where it locks it in place. Took out the vent there and checked the oil level. It's right at the center, so that's good. There's actually a little hole in the back side to tell you it's got to have at least that much. If you pour in here and it starts to come out here, you stop it. But I got it about halfway so that it's not so much oil that it gets hot and builds up, and actually builds up too much heat because of no airspace, but so it stays well lubed on that front bearing and the gears in there. I had first put a loader bucket on here that belongs on a completely different tractor that I use. It's in some old videos. I put me some brackets kind of like this, using some heavy angle iron up on the top of that bucket, and then this here hydraulic cylinder here that is operated by a separate valve. Obviously it's just got holes instead of a pivot ball, but I don't put bushings. I let it loose so it has a little swing, and that's how I can tilt the bucket up and down to actually be able to scoop 3 loads of limestone base gravel and from a pile that's supposed to be another driveway for stuff, and bring it down here and put it in the holes in the driveway here where I parked the Freightliner. Already the Peterbilt had wore it out with wet weather. Anyway, that is what it is, and I got it done. I of course had to recheck, tighten all fittings, recheck the hydraulic fluid, and this is a nice setup that that box came off of a hydraulic table, some kind of press or something or other, and it's jury rigged like crazy, but you know what? It works. And that's a big part of my videos is clues, folks, clues. Things that you can do for yourself or get somebody to do for you that's more affordable, or if there's nothing available, there's no stores open or something, go to the scrapyard, see what's laying around. That's a Cessna pump. I don't know if it was originally meant for an airplane or what. I hope I don't have to replace it. I've been looking into them, and already a couple years ago they were rather expensive. But it'd be easier to get something that matches it on the same homemade bracketry my good friend built there for me, and so forth. Anyway, whatever your equipment is, whether it's a hand tool, a pocket knife, a tractor, car, truck, bicycle, try to take care of your equipment better than I have time for, so that when you need it the most, it still works. You don't get stranded, or those alternative transportations, like maybe that if you had to. So they'll work when all the electronic stuff gets knocked out by EMP from a solar event or some man-made nuclear energy type event. So take care of yourselves, and I wish you a blessed day. And yeah, secure your stuff so that it stays.